A lot of things I have to correct here.
Please.
Yeah, I have notes here. Mr. Airport, I like that one. I hadn't heard that before. It's never that hard. I'm sorry. How hard can it be? It's not that hard. One of the things I would like to say, I walked around here and I was taking pictures of people enjoying that everybody is here. I hate having little tables. I would really that we were all sitting at one big table. If we could figure out how to make one great big round table and we're all sitting at the same table, that'd be my ideal. Because I don't really want to just sit with these 10 people. I love them. But I love you. And you. And you. And you. All of you. I would really rather sit with all of you, but that's not the reality of where we are. If you know me, you know that I like to have a party. Any excuse to have a party. The block party, Mark touched upon it. It used to be a little thing. Mark really grew it into something else. All he needed, Mark and I are simpatico on that. I mean, he comes up with these crazy ideas of like, yeah, let's do it. How are we going to figure that out? And it has grown and grown and grown. So, obviously, retiring, why have one? Why not have two parties? So we did. I had a party yesterday, invited everybody from the county over, invited all of our tenants. It was a great event. And then I get to do it again today. So thank you all from the bottom of my heart for the time that you've taken out of your day to be here today. So yeah, here we go. Mic drop. No, we get rid of it. No. So I did put together a little discussion to have with you, a little training session, you know, if you will, maybe a little classroom education for you. So, and for the Scouts, you heard a little bit of this the other night. I was practicing on you when we did the Scoutmaster Minute. I always wanted to fly. Always wanted to fly. The very first time I went for a little flight, or a flight in a little airplane, was with, oh my goodness, was with my father. And we were flying with a guy I would assume was a friend of a friend. It was a red Cherokee 180. You know, when I got in the airplane, it had the red vinyl on the walls and on the seats. I was probably 10 years old, so it was 1976. And I can remember talking with Dad on the drive out to the airport. And he's asking me questions, or he's talking to me about it. And he's asking me questions. I'm peppering him with questions. And we get there, and I can remember walking out on the ramp and looking at that airplane. And just thinking, wow, you know, that's kind of cool. Dad and I sat in the back seat of that airplane. When it took off, that was incredible. I'm sitting in the back seat, looking out the window, watching the world go away. And from that day, I was hooked. I wanted to fly. Took me a long time to get there. A really long time to get there. You know, I came home from that trip, from that flight, and I can remember looking at birds. I was watching birds and thinking, wow, that's really cool. I wish I had wings. Kind of a silly thought, but that's what I wanted. I wanted to be up in the air. I wanted to see the earth from that perspective. It was a few years later, and my dad bought a 172. There was a little talk about that before. It was a Cessna 172. It's a high-wing airplane, 733 X-ray Sierra. And we would go flying, and there was nothing I liked more than going flying with my dad. We were flying in and out of this little dirt strip in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Nowhere to go. Get in the airplane, take off. Sometimes my sister was in the back seat. We'd say, hey, Dad, do a stall. And I don't know if you know what a stall is. Stall is you go up until the plane can't fly anymore, and then it falls. balls. And the pit of my stomach would fall out, and I'd just laugh, and I'm like, Dad, do it again, do it again. And he would do it again. And he'd do it 2 or 3 times, and about then, he'd get tired of it. And Marcy and I are like, let's go again, come on, Dad. But he wouldn't do it. I've since learned how scary stalls are. It's not really my favorite thing to do. I'm very happy when I go for a BFR and the instructor does not want to do a stall.
Biennial flight review.
Yeah. Biennial flight review for those who, never mind. And, one of the other things, in Tulsa, you get clouds out there. And they're not clouds like you see here. And the clouds in Oklahoma, you get they're kind of like cotton balls. There's one here, there's one there, there's one over here. It's pretty, You just don't see that around here. And every once in a while, we're out flying with Dad, and Dad would cruise through one of those. Now, don't tell anybody because he wasn't allowed to do that. But man, that was freaking cool. We really enjoyed that. So I wanted to fly. And when I was I think I was a senior in high school, and Mom and Dad actually bought me a Discovery flight. That's where you get to go with a flight instructor, and you get to go for your first flight. And so they clearly saw the desire. But I was a senior in high school. And I see this with the scouts that I deal with. There are other things that seem to be more important at the time. To this day, I question my decision making at that point in my life. Because I never took advantage of it. I never went up for that flight. It was a few years later. So I went to school. I wanted to go. I wanted to study aviation, and I'm in Oklahoma. It's 1986. I graduated from high school. That's before the internet for many of you younger kids over there. And so, how do you figure out what to do? So I found 2 schools that taught aviation, and they were Embry-Riddle and they were North Dakota State. And I looked at them, and they both just seemed impossible. I didn't know how I could pull that off. I mean, they were so, among other things, they were so expensive. Where's the money come from to do something like that? Now today, you look at what it costs then, I'm like, sign me up, I'll just write a check. But that was a different time in life, and I didn't know how to make that happen. So I didn't. I did something else. My friend Steve here is going to San Jose State. I mean, Steve and I, although we are not blood relatives, we are the closest to brothers that you could ever have. And Steve's going to San Jose State, but to Oklahoma State, yes. Okay, I'll go to Oklahoma State. Steve and I were roommates. We had a lot of fun. I didn't do so well at school. And I went to school there. I tried school in different places. I was just kind of aimless. I didn't really know where I was going. I didn't know what I was going to do. Nothing really stuck. I dropped out of school. I'm working for a different company. I'm having a good time. The job's not going to go anywhere. It pays decent for what I was doing. I was having fun. I was traveling all over the country. I was digging holes and working on pipelines. It was hard work. I was a young guy on the crew. There were a lot of nights in bars that I don't really remember. But we had a good time, a lot of headaches in the morning. Really wasn't going anywhere. And my dad had an opportunity for a job out here. And he calls me up one day and says, "Hey, Eric, going to San Jose." They were going to Sunnyvale. They're going to the Bay Area. I might have been San Francisco Bay Area. If you want to go back to school, you can come live with us. By this time, my sister and I are out. We're out on our own. I've got my own place. He owned the place, but I was out on my own. I was paying rent. I was making it work. And I was like, well, I've never been to the San Francisco Bay Area. I've been to Southern California, but what have I got to hold me here? So off I went. I came out here. I went to school at De Anza for a couple of years. It wasn't a bad thing. I made one of the greatest friends I could ever make, a guy named Steve Porter. He sent me a text today. He's in Texas now. He went off in the military, had a great career. He's moved off to Texas. He's one of those guys. Sorry, Steve. I was at the transfer center at De Anza. And so at this time, again, this is for you guys over here who really don't understand the world before the internet. You actually had to go to this room, and they had all of this paper around the room that listed all of the programs in the different colleges that in the California State College program. And I had a couple in my hand. I had one for the Ranger or the Park Ranger program that was at Berkeley. There were a couple of like those. And I was like, well, that's cool. You know, I'd spent 2 years at De Anza. It was time to move on. And so I was like, that's cool. That'd be fun. I like to hike. I like the outdoors. I like to be out there. How can that be wrong? And then so there's this turnstile, you know, kind of like you see in the grocery store with the cards on it. And it's got all these different programs on it. And I'm turning that, and I'm standing there, and I'm turning that. And I find the one for the aviation program at San Jose State. That's Fred, the chair of the aviation program. And so I pulled that one out and put all the other ones away. That's when I knew where I was going. That's when I had my direction. Sorry, I'm boring you, Chris.
I've been up since 2, okay?
He's yawning back there. So from there on, I knew what I was doing. I knew where I was going. I had some pressures from different people to make different decisions, but I didn't do it. I was true to what I wanted to do. And so I went on and I graduated from San Jose State. But I will tell you, you heard a little bit about that. It was 10 years after I graduated from high school. So it wasn't like it happened overnight. It was a challenge to get there. And one of the courses, Susan alluded to it, but so it's my senior year. There's one course I had to take. It had a lot of reading. It wasn't textbooks. It were, I don't know what they were, novels, one after the other. They were horrible. Let me just tell you that. I shouldn't say that because I never read one of them. Because my lovely wife read every single one of those books, and she gave me the Sue notes. I aced that class without ever opening a book. Thank you, Susan. So it took me a year to get the job that I had. Well, I was going to say have now. 10 minutes, buddy. I got 20. What are they going to do? Come out with a crook? So, I lost my train of thought. So sorry.
Does that happen in old age?
It happens all the time. It's got nothing to do with old age. So I finally graduated. It was a great experience. I had a lot of fun. I got that first job at the county. It was as the airport operations worker. It wasn't really the job that I really aspired to, but it did the job. It got me where I am today. And here we are. It's been 27 years. 27 years. It's hard for me to believe. And today was the last day of my employment with Santa Clara County. So then I asked myself, how did I get here? It's a question I ask myself all the time. What did I do to have, well, frankly, to have you? I mean, I look out here and I see all these people who are smiling and they're happy and they're having a good time. And none of you have to be here. You all chose to be here. And that's very humbling.
We love you.
the solution I came to really started with what you saw up here before. It started with the Scouts. It was the Scouts that gave me the wherewithal to figure out how to get from there to here. And I have a couple stories I wanted to share with you, to bring that home. So I'm probably 10 years old, and I went from Cub Scouts to Boy Scouts. That's about the age at which you make that transition. Cub Scouts, the parents are always involved. Boy Scouts, the parents generally step back. And in 1980, whatever it was, 82 at that point, the parents just disappear. It's very different from today, where they're all sitting in the back of the room, kind of watching what's going on. And so I have just transitioned over to Boy Scouts, and it's summer camp time. And my dad and his brother, my uncle, are taking me up to the church to go for summer camp. And I naively thought that they were going to take me to summer camp. And we show up at the church, and Dad says, "All right, get out of the car, grab your shit. You're leaving here." And I'm like, "What? I'm 10 years old. Who am I going to ride with? Who are these people? I don't really know any of them." And but he was firm. He's like, "No, you got to go." I got tears in my eyes. I'm really scared about that. But I get out. I swallow my fear. I get in the car. I don't even know who the guy was. And again, would that happen today? Some weirdo, And we take off, and I can remember that feeling as we're driving down the road towards summer camp, and that fear kind of subsides. And I had, at that point, what was the best summer of my life. Those of you who have been to summer camp know that feeling. That first summer, that first week of getting away from mom and dad. Nobody cares. You don't have to take a shower. You get to go play in the lake, go fishing, whatever. There is nothing like that. What did I learn there? I learned to face your fears. In all situations, or in most situations, your fears are never as bad as you think they're going to be. And that's a lesson that's carried me through my entire life. There's another story. And one mom, so you should probably close your ears, because you won't like this one. We were backpacking. Again, I'm with the Scouts, and we're in Wyoming, and we have camped. We've hiked back. We're about 6 days into a 2-week trip. We're camped in a valley, and there are mountains all around us. Most of the Scouts have gone off, and they're doing a little day hike somewhere. I didn't want to do that. I can't tell you why I didn't want to do that, but I was the only one in camp, me and the Scout master. I'm playing in the creek, and there's a mountain right here, right next to us. It's got like stair steps that lead up to the top. And I'm thinking, dude, I want to go climb that. I like to be up on the top. You heard that I like to fly. It's really about that perspective. I'm like, oh, there's that perspective. Let's go. And so I go tell Mr. Reed, hey, I want to go climb this mountain. He says, all right, have fun. So I'm by myself. This is not something that we would condone today, but in that time, it was okay. And so off I go. And that first step is like a step in a set of stairs going up. And each progressive step gets taller and taller and taller. Until I get to the point, I'm about 2/3 of the way up, and I'm grabbing the vegetation that is growing in the cracks to use that to haul myself up to the next step. And I get up to this next step. I'm about 2/3 of the way up, and the slope on the step is about 40 degrees out towards, away from the mountain. And I'm standing there, and my only way up is to cross this step, which is about 20 feet wide, over to the next crevasse, grab the vegetation there, and pull me up to the next one. And I'm standing there, and I'm thinking, okay, what do I do? I look around, I see my way down. It's a 1/4 mile over here. There's a nice little valley with trees growing in it. It's green. It's beautiful. I'm like, I want to be over there right now. But I'm not. I'm here. How do I solve this problem? This is 1980. mark, I don't know what it was, 84. No dot, no cell phone, no radio, nothing. And frankly, everybody else is off climbing a mountain somewhere else. I'm all by myself. My scoutmaster, who is in his 60s, is down below. And if he could hear me, what's he going to do? So I look at this situation. What am I going to do? How am I going to get out of this? And what I decide is that I've got to hold on to something. I've got to hold on to something no matter what I do. Because I have to get from here to there. I can't down climb. Down climbing is dangerous, and I just inherently knew that. That would not be a good solution. And so I make my way up to the edge between the surface and the mountain. I put my fingers in the crack. I make my way across, all the way across, to the next vegetation. I grab that tree and I start climbing up to the next one. And then the next one. And then the next one. There's about 3 more. And I was at the top. I stand up there. Woo! I made it. Freaking incredible. But it wasn't all that incredible for the kid who was 14 at the time. I just had a problem to solve. And how do I do it? What did I learn from that? I have to look at my notes. Stay calm. Always stay calm. Think about what your options are. Look for your options. I couldn't call for help, and I couldn't down climb. If, today you read all about the people who get themselves into bad situations and they just give up. Oh, help me, help me, help me. That would have been me if I'd had those options, but I didn't have those options. So I figured out how to solve that problem. There's another story, my third story, and let me go back. So that was for most of my life, that was a point at which I felt the most vulnerable. Like I was the closest to real mortal danger. That one time. I've thought about that my whole life. And one of the other things it taught me is to look further. Look beyond your next step. Look 2 steps. Look 3 steps before. Because if I had been doing that, I never would have gotten myself into that situation in the first place. But, what are you going to do when you're 13 years old? And then I have a friend, Bill, who unfortunately couldn't be here. And he asked me to go canoe the Everglades with him. And so Bill, while Bill is not a scout, Bill and I have done a lot of things with scouts, so it's kind of scout related also. And Bill wanted to go canoe the Everglades Wilderness Trail. It's about 100 miles. It's generally about a 10-day trip. And so we did that. In fact, we're flying to, we're actually going to Florida and we're flying in what is now my plane. It was his plane at the time. And he's telling me about how he wants to do this, but he can't get anybody to do it with him. And I'm sitting there next to him, and I just kind of look over at him. I mean, Bill and I have done all kinds of crazy shit together. And I look over at him, and he looks at me kind of incredulously. He says, "What, do you want to go?" What the hell? Of course I want to go. So a year and a half later, we find ourselves, again, we're in the Bonanza, we're flying out to the Everglades. We fly into Everglades City. End up on this trip. So we're halfway through. It's a 10-day trip. We're halfway through. A storm blows in. Long story short, the waves crash over our tent, crash the tent. They break a pole. Bill's getting cold. Hypothermia is a real issue. We got to figure out how to fix the tent, move it somewhere that we're not going to get swamped, and get him warm so that there are no problems. We do all of that. And then the next day we have to take off. Only on the coast, that storm has blown in, and we've got 2 or 3 foot seas. And we're in a canoe. Did I tell you that part? We're in a canoe. We've got a canoe loaded down for 10 days of supplies for the 2 of us to make this trip. And 10 days of supplies includes 10 days of water, because there is no fresh water anywhere in the Everglades. And we take off. And the results of the storm is that when we get to the river that we need to go up, we're late. So we're going against the tide. we're going against the current, obviously, and because of the storm, we're going against the winds. And because we're going against winds, there's 1-foot seas that we're dealing with. And at one point, Bill and I pull off to the side. We go up the river, we go up a quarter mile or so. There's a little spot that we can pull off to the side. We pull off to the side, grab the mangroves, take a break, and we discuss our possibilities. What is it that we can do? We could call for a rescue. I actually had a sat phone at that point, so we could call the Park Service and they would come get us. And we talked about it. But if they came to get us, they were not coming to get us to take us to the next point. They were coming to get us to take us out of the park. And neither Bill or I were really interested in that. We wanted the whole freaking experience. We wanted to get all the way to the end. Or we could continue on. We couldn't go back because we only had 11 days worth of food and we'd already used the extra day. So we decided we're going to go. And off we go. And the only problem was that once we started from there, there was no place to stop. So for the next several hours, the wind is blowing in our face. It's blowing so hard that Bill can't hear me. He's in the front, I'm in the back. He can't hear me if I were to talk like this. I have to yell at him to get his attention over the noise of the wind. We've got waves coming, and I'm in the stern, so if I stop paddling for a second, the nose of the canoe starts to turn either left or right. It gets broadside to the wind. Once it's broadside to the wind, it gets broadside to the waves. Once it's broadside to the waves, over you go. And so we can't stop. And so the only thing we can do is I have to yell at Bill every time. So we're paddling, we're paddling, we're paddling. And you cannot stop. If you stop, you die. And so I would yell at Bill, switch! And just like that, I would say switch, and he would go to one side and I'd go to the other side. And that was the way that we could rest our arms enough so that we could keep going. And we went and we went and we went. A motorboat went by, but I couldn't grab my whistle and whistle at him because if I stopped long enough to grab the whistle, over we went. I couldn't take my paddle out enough to try and get their attention. I tried, but I put it up here and the wind blows it over, and if I did it again, once again, time, the canoe goes broadside. We made it. We made it up to a channel marker. We grabbed a hold of that channel marker. We're weather vaning in the wind. We're talking about what we're going to do. We get our breath. And off we go because we can't stop because it's now getting dark. And you can't find your campsite in the Everglades when it's dark. You got to be there in the daylight. We were successful. We made it. And 11 days later, we pulled out of the Everglades. No alligator bites. No upside down canoes. Just a broken tent and a little broken pride, but a lot of pride actually in having made it. And you ask yourself, well, what did you learn? You're a whole lot stronger than you think you are. You are a whole lot stronger than you think you are. This is really good for you guys over here. You are a whole lot stronger than you think you are. You can do anything if you set your mind to it. And I mean that in all sincerity. If you think you can do it, you can figure it out. Too often in life, I think we get in our own way. We find a reason to say no. Somebody has an opportunity comes up, and I'm like, oh no, I can't do this. Too hard. I can't get the time off work. The kids aren't out of school. It's too expensive. It scares me. Can't do it.
My legal department tells me I have to stop.
Nope, you can't stop now. I'm almost ready. It's my party. I get to go on.
Okay.
But thank you.
My legal department tells me, Jared's over there, he's like, look at him.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know he wants to get the hook crooked out, but when everybody else got a moment, I get my moment. I wrote all of this, so I'm almost done. So, I have worked very hard to cultivate a yes lifestyle. Yes, I can. I said yes. I can go climb Kilimanjaro. Barry, you can't hear me and talk at the same time.
I'll be better.
Okay, thank you. I said, yes, I can go do the Everglades. Yes. I can go to Philmont. Yes. I can I can learn to fly. Yes. I'm ready to take that flight lesson or that flight test. Yes. I can take the job as the director of county airports.
Yes, you can get the smart girl.
Yeah, yes. Actually, she's the one that had to say yes for that. Yes, we can buy a Bonanza. And one of the things about that is that every single one of those things scared the hell out of me in one way or another. So, what does that have to do with retirement? I know. Maybe nothing. But maybe it has everything to do with it. Maybe it has everything to do with me standing here right now. Your attention. These experiences have shaped who I am. And who I am is how I got to where I am right now. I wouldn't be here if it hadn't been for each and every one of those experiences. They all gave me the wherewithal, the intelligence, well, that might be questionable, the strength, the knowledge to be successful at the career that I chose.
Eric, the governor!
They all, they made me a better son. They made me a better employee, a better boss, a better scoutmaster, a better friend, although some might argue that, a better uncle, a better husband, and a better father. So today I'm here to celebrate the end of an incredible career that was much more meaningful because of these scary lessons that I have learned along the way that have really made me who I am. And thank you all for being here to celebrate with me. It means more than I could ever say.
All right, everybody. In celebration of Eric's 27 years with Santa Clara County, please raise your glass. Here's to Eric. Thank you all for coming to support Eric and his celebration.